Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica, Imperialis and to today's video. Today is a bonus episode for A Town Called Mallus, my Warhammer Age of Sigmar hobby project for the Stormcast Eternals. I finished the project a few weeks ago and I'll leave it in the description below if you wish to see it. But I wanted to do, at the end of the project, a full showcase for all the work that I've done over the past, oh god, how many months is it? 8? Yeah, about 8 months of work. I wanted to get it all in one place and show it off rather than having to go through episode after episode after episode after episode. So we're going to get it all out on a table and we'll show it all off in one go. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a gaming table to do it on. I'll explain a little bit more why later. But I get a chance to show all of the models off here, talk a little bit about them in the army and what I've thought of them. And then after we've done the showcase, I'm going to do a little sit and talk segment. I've already recorded the showcase, but we're going to have a little bit of a sit and talk about why this army ain't done. I completely planned for this army to be a one-year project, which should be September to May, June, where I could work on the Stormcast whilst I was in France and then go home, start a new army, more than likely, or go back to my 40k and do whatever. Now, that was still the plan when I finished A Town Called Mallus a few weeks ago. And then Warhammer Fest happened, and AOS 2 happened, and now we've got a new chamber, and I'm kind of in that position I love and hate being in as a hobbyist, where there is so much stuff I want to get. So whilst I'm here, hopefully as AOS 2 comes out, I should hopefully still be this side of the pond, or the channel, I should say. The pond is the Atlantic in British slang. But I should hopefully still be here, and I might pick up one or two elements of the Sacrosanct Chamber, because I do really want to get a couple of bits. As to whether I'll make another episode of A Town Called Mallus, I don't know. I'll see how I go with it. As I sort of say in the segment later, I'm thinking I might just do one big video where I just show off all the new stuff that I add in, but I'm not sure yet. Let me know what you think I should do in the comments below, because that always helps us to get people's ideas. Anyway, that's for the future, and at the end of the video, we'll have a little bit of talk about the stuff we're adding in, and the army as a whole, what I think it's got, what I think it's not got, some of the things I'll have said in the end of A Town Called Mallus itself, but I can do it again here and we have a proper long little chat. So without further ado, let's get to the models. This is the full army showcase for A Town Called Mallus. Here we go. Alright, it's the end of The Town Called Mallus, and here's the army that came out of it. Well, actually, it's not quite the end of the army, but it is the end of the project. This is everything we got done as part of A Town Called Mallus. So let's go and have a look through it. I haven't done the numbers again in my head just before making this video, but the numbers for this army come at about 4,500 points, which is a lot. I mean, if you look at like model count, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 5, 60-ish, it's probably about 70 to 80 models for 4,500 points. That's not a lot, but then again, it is Stormcast Eternals, and it's not Warrior Chamber basic Stormcast Eternals. Like there's Draco Cavalry, there's Vanguard Paladors. Grid Hounds are exceptionally expensive for what they are. So that's kind of why, but I just want to give you a basic number of where we're at before we dive in. So, leading the army, we have, well, I put all the heroes out front, but the primary generals are, of course, Justinian Bloodbreaker and Narcisio Wildwalker. The two Lord Aquilos, one built straight out of the box, the first of the heroes I put into the army, and then the later conversion that I made thanks to a live stream or two. I'll just spin around with it. So he's got the Fulminator's Lance, and he also has a Shock Hand Axe as opposed to the Starbound Blade and the Bolt Storm Pistol. Narcisio is also unique in that he is the only red Griff Charger, so I'll just get her a bit into the light for you. He's the only Griff Charger that's not blue-ish or using blue-like colours much at all. I'll show you that with the other Vanguard Paladors as we go through the video. In terms of the other heroes, we have the Lord Celestin on Draco, the Vandus Hammerhand conversion, and actually one of my personal favourite models in the collection. I don't know why, but I really, really, really like this model. The pose is good, and when you're painting it, I don't know, I found this with the army several times, but when you're putting gold onto these models, they just pop, and they really do come alive when you add certain tones to them. This was the case for the Celestin on Draco, this was the case for the Knight Questor, who I'll come on to, and it is a really, really nice model. I had a real good time painting it, even though it was something I wasn't planning to add to the army very quickly, and he actually really proved his worth on the tabletop as well. He hits hard, and he generally just does a good job. He's a good tank, does good damage. Really, really proud of that hero. Other heroes, we've got 3 on this side and 3 on the other. So we have the Knight Heraldor, the Lord Castellant, and the Lord Relictor. Knight Heraldor, unsung hero, actually very sung hero of my first game. Lord Castellant, never really got a chance to give him a run out, but theoretically very, very useful, particularly for certain units in the army. And the Lord Relictor gave him a couple of runs out. Not bad, definitely not much more than 80 points worth paying because some of the prizes are kind of met, and I had just had a difficulty getting into cast, but I'm really proud of the conversion work I had to do to get the banner on and then doing the head swap. I'm really quite proud of the conversion what I had to do with that Lord Relictor. You'll also notice on the heroes on this side that I've done some more head swaps just to keep with that theme. So we've got the Knight Vexillor with the Meteoric Standard, which is head swapped with a Decimators. You've got the Knight Questor, Gabriel Shawheart, and slight plastic surgery that you're doing on it, with the Protector Prime head, and then the Relictor has a Retributor head. And then the Black Talon, sadly one of my least favourite models in the collection. I just don't think she works that well with my paint scheme, or just the helmet doesn't work with my paint scheme. I don't know. But on tabletop she's useful. I just don't think I got a chance to use her properly because the one time she did get used, she got assassinated by a giant pile of skinks, and the only heroes that my opponent had were so hidden away as to be immortal. The heroes, honestly, I've got most of them. The only heroes I don't think I've got would be the Foot-Mounted Lord Celestant, because I generally don't use my Questor as Gabriel Shawheart. Is there any others? Oh yeah, the flying ones, the Knight Venator and a Xeros, because for the same reason I don't have Prosecutors and I haven't built Ether Wings, I'm not building winged stuff in France. I've said that multiple times throughout the series. Then we move on to the battle line, which is sort of taking up much of the middle. So we've got 10 Vanguard Hunters here, my first 10 Hunters with their Astral Compasses, the Storm Sabers and the Bolt Storm Pistols and a Prime. And you can sort of tell what order I did these models in because these ones are based. I actually managed to base all the heroes, but I didn't get to base all of the models in time. So 10 Vanguard Hunters with their swords. Then we've got 10 more Vanguard Hunters over here. These guys have got the shock hand axes. And then the other 5 that I did at the end of the series, they're at the back just for symmetry's sake. And these guys are battle line so as long as I've got one of these 2 in my army being general, that's all good. And with the changes to command abilities in AOS 2, sorry, shaky cam. With the changes to command abilities in AOS 2, it's actually going to be quite nice for me to have options for generals. So now these guys have got their command abilities, which are useful. I don't need to take a trait to be using them both. And this guy's got a decent command ability. If I run him as Shawheart, his command ability is not bad. The Foot-Mounted Celestant's got a decent ability if I ever invested in that. They're generally not bad. Stormcast don't get loads out of command points, but they can certainly benefit off of it. As I said, these 2 are battle line if with that. Then I've got 10 Liberators, the basic battle line that are always battle line. So they've got their Warhammers and Shields and 2 Grand Hammers with the Prime. Yes, I know I don't put the special weapons on Primes. Deal with it, sue me. It's just personal preference. I always like having the special weapons in the hands of someone else. It's kind of like having command. So I don't like to stack all the upgrades on one dude. Just personal preference. I've then got 2 lots of 5 Judicators, so 5 that are based, 5 that are not based, with their Skybolt bows and the Shockbolt bow, I think it's called, the special weapon, which is this guy right here, and it's this guy right here. I've only got the 1 Prime, obviously. I probably, in hindsight, would probably want to go back and change one of these to be a 2nd Prime, just because then I have 2 actual units I can use all the time rather than having to be 110 to have a Prime. But I can sort of denote that by saying the Shockbolt bow is the Prime going forward. Just a small detail, really. And honestly, Judicators have not been great. I might talk about the army a little bit at the end of the video, depending how I feel about it. I might do a discussion about the units I've got, what I think the army needs. Yeah, I might do that at the end, actually. I might just sit back down and do that. So, other units. One of the more recent additions to the army, we have 5 Retributors going to smack something in the face with their hammers, which is always nice. I do like big, chunky infantry smacking things in the face. I've then got my Decimators, my anti-infantry DPS. Yeah, sorry about the lighting being so different on both sides, by the way. I haven't got a place I can put a light that's behind me. Sorry about that. So the Decimators are just great for cleaning up blocks of infantry, and they'll be ably supported in that by the Vanguard Raptors. I've got a unit with Hurricane crossbows and a unit with Long Strike crossbows. And yeah, both these guys have very different purposes. I'm slightly concerned about the Long Strikes going forward because of the Lookout Sir change. Now, I love the Lookout Sir change. Don't get me wrong, I think Lookout Sir is a fantastic ability, but it kind of removes the modus operandi of these guys for just picking off weak heroes or casters and things like that. They can still take pot shots at monster casters and things like that because they're not affected by Lookout Sir, but their usefulness has dropped a little bit as snipers. Other units, well, we've got a big pile of Gryph-hounds. I'm probably never going to use these things unless I'm doing something a little bit weird, but I've got them there, which is nice. Just good painting practice, if nothing else, gave me different ideas for schemes and things like that, which were very ably applied to the Gryph Chargers. So, over on this side, you've got the axe-wielding Vanguard Paladors. You've seen these guys ages ago. I'll just go this way. So, there's not much really I can say about them. They're awkward to build, not so bad to paint, but God almighty, these things are a pain to build. And even my second unit Paladors that I'll show you again in a sec. Paladors are the worst unit to build in Stormcast Eternals, bar none. Then we have the other Paladors, the new variant with the Star Strike Javelins. Oh God, I'm forgetting their names right now. And you actually haven't seen the Prime. I actually finished the Prime off stream. So there's the Prime. He's done in Cantor Blue with Skink Blue, purple scaling, and red feathers. Much easier to assemble than the first Prime. Then again, that just comes with practice. But still a bit of a pain in the butt to assemble. And I'm hoping these guys will come in useful. I'm yet to field test this variant of Paladors, but I'm hoping to get a game very soon. I want to do one battle report with these guys before I leave France at the very least, in AOS 1. And if I get chance to play a game in AOS 2, then I might do that, but I get the feeling I'm not going to get that opportunity until I go home. And then finally, we've got some Dracoth Cavalry. Lord Salicent, would you kindly get out of the way? We've got the Concussors, my real hammers of the army. These guys are great tanks. They hit like an absolute truck, whether they're charging or being charged. The only thing that concerns me is that I haven't got enough units that work like them. So these guys hit like a brick. These guys hit like a brick. These guys can hit like a brick if they ever hit. Mine never do. This guy can hit like a brick. But I don't have a huge amount of units that can really do massive damage in one go, which is something I was weighing up actually quite recently in a live stream regarding what I'm getting next for the army, because I've actually started working on some new Dracoth Cavalry. So first, hold the camera. I've actually added some Tempesters to the army. We had a vote on stream whether to get Tempesters or Fulminators, and we went with Tempesters. So I actually finished this model last night at the time of recording. Took me like 5 or 6 hours, but there you go. So I've added those into the army next because I felt like I wanted more harassment shooting. Admittedly, the shooting nerf we're getting with AOS 2 might prove me to be a moron with doing that, but I think it's really useful to have the chip damage. And I know earlier in a town called Mallus, I wrote the Tempesters off as being really, really dumb. But the more I look at them, they're a nice mixed attacker. They've got range, they've got melee, and they also have disruption, which is really, really useful. And Fulminators, whilst Fulminators would fit my argument of I need big chunky removal, the problem with Fulminators is that while they're damage 3 on the charge and they've got rend, once they're stopped charging, they're very distinctly meh. They would serve as my shooting tanks, and they would serve as my one-use only clearance, but I don't know if I'd have enough use for them wide range, and the vote that the stream went for was with Tempesters, though not everybody agreed. Obviously, it's live streaming. Okay, and that's it. That is Project Stormcast. 4,500 points, give or take a bit, of the Sons of Mallus, and we're not done. Despite the fact that I said the project was over, the project is over. I'm not going to be making like many, if any, bonus episodes, and certainly not any bonus episodes in French. Désolé les Français. But I might make a bonus episode with the Sacrosanct stuff if I get enough stuff that I think it's worth doing. So I could show off the Tempesters, I could show off whatever else I get for the Sacrosanct Chamber. Because, yeah, I'm getting some Sacrosanct Chamber. Sorry, sue me. But they are really cool. And that'll take up my summer. And then when I get back to uni in September, I'll probably
probably go with the Ideneth. I really don't know. I've got too many ideas right now, and anyone who's like seen me on streams or had conversations with him would know I'm really torn about what I want to do next. Maybe let's do a straw poll, something like that. Anyway, that's the army, and voila. I wanted to do this obviously on a proper table with terrain and stuff like that, but that just couldn't pan out because there's no way I'd be able to secure a Games Workshop table to be quiet for 20 minutes or 15 minutes while I did this sort of talk. So this is what you've got, I'm afraid. And I do hope you like the army. Sorry again about the lighting. So let me know what you think of the army, what you think I should be adding into it going forward. Obviously, I'll discuss the sacrosanct thoughts in my sort of sit-down segment that I'm going to do after this. It'll be about 5 or 10 minutes where I get to talk about the plans going forward for the army now that I know there is a plan and all that good stuff. So yeah, let me know what you think of the scheme, the army, the whole series, and what you think I should do going forward for armies to collect and how I could work on hobby projects as a whole. Anyway, that's everything I think I need to say about the models I've got. I'll probably sit down now, do a bit of a quick overview of what the army does well, what it does not so well, what I'm going to be adding, and then we'll finally close the book on a town called Mallus.
And there you have it. That is the full Sons of Mallus army. I've actually done a full model count to put the models away, and it's 92 models counting the new Tempestors, and that comes in at give or take 4748 points. So take those out, it's about 90 models for 4,500, average cost about 50 points per model. That's a lot, that is a lot, but hey, it's Stormcast and it's AOS, it's allowed. In 40k they sort of say if you're over 40 points a model, you've overdone it, but I don't care. Well, they used to say that in like 5th edition, I don't know if that's true anymore. Anyway, that is the whole army. I know it's probably not the highest quality showcase you've ever seen, primarily because of the way it's all set up, but that is the whole army, and it is an army that I'm really, really proud of. It's not the best models I've ever painted. It's not the most amazing paint scheme I've ever chosen to use, but by gum, it looks good. It really works as a cohesive force on the tabletop because you've got the black armour with a plenty of gold so they don't just blend into the background, and you've got the little spot colours of the purples, the reds, the silvers are nice and bright, and you've got the other colours as well that just pop in here or there, and it's a really, really nice scheme, and I take no credit for it because obviously it's out of the Stormcast Battles home, but I'm very, very happy with how it looks, and it really has come together to make an army that I can really say I'm happy to have invested in, because I sort of went with Stormcast as a way to get me into AOS proper, because my elves I didn't expect to get anything for like 10 months to a year to 2 years, because AOS's release schedule was and still kind of is not great. So I went with them, and it was not a decision I regret, not at all. So how does the army work, and how could it be improved? Because I've thought about this in bits and bobs throughout the series, and I thought about it a little bit, I think, at the end of the series. But it's one of those things where it's hard to quantify because you don't play games at 4,500 points. You play them at 1,000, 2,000, maybe 3,000. And so the army can do many different things. The main way I like to play the army is with the Vanguard core. So you've got the Lord of Keylors, you've got the Vanguard elements, the Raptors, the Hunters, the Paladors, and you use those to harass the enemy. So you move fast, you strike fast, and you generally don't let yourself get hit. Your Hunters are your main battle line, so they can take charges and also deal a little bit of damage with shooting and melee. The Paladors are great for objective capping, so they can ride the Winds Etheric and also be teleported by the Lord of Keylor. And they've got decent damage as well. The Griff Chargers can put out some decent damage, and they get decent shooting if you give them the Javelins. Whilst the Raptors are there to clean up characters or infantry, depending on which unit it is. So bigger stuff, hand it to these Long Strike Raptors. Big units, hand them over to the Hurricane Raptors. But the Vanguard Chamber can't do everything. Whilst that's a nice core to work with, lots of teleports and harassment and stuff like that, that can't work against everybody. So you have the Warrior Chamber core. That's the Liberators, the Judicators, and the Paladins. And they're there to add bulk to the army, as well as a bit of punch. Because whilst the Vanguard Chamber can do great chip damage, as I call it, so plinking a wound here, plinking a couple of wounds here, assassinating a hero, they can't do massive amounts of pits, whereas Paladins really, really can. Decimators against huge piles of infantry like Skaven Clan Rats can just go to town and just delete half a unit if you roll well. And Retributors are great for punching through tanky units that have got a lot of armor and maybe only one or maybe not tons of armor but a bunch of wounds. So things like ogres, chaos warriors are really susceptible to them, although the mortal wounds save on the chaos shields. Anyway, that's a side point. And they will deal with that sort of thing. And also they're good for monsters because the Liberators have Layla the Tyrant, so they can tank and also deal damage to monster heroes, and I can use them as anvils to sweep in with the Paladins and clean house. The Warrior Chamber also, to me, includes the Lord Selznion Draco, though he can go in either Warrior or Extremis, and he has proved to be a real asset. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. He is a real tank, and if you can get a hero around that can heal him, like a Lord Relictor, or perhaps in the new edition, you get the Eternal Healing spell from the Law of Life, and just get that going and going and going. I'm calling it the Law of Life. I don't know if it will be called the Law of Life. But if you get that endless spell going and just keeps healing him, he can do some utterly stupid stuff. He gets a bunch of damage, he gets really good defense, and a decent command ability that will see some decent use in the new edition, because just having a mass aura of immune to battle shock is actually quite useful if you don't want to be teleporting around all the time, or you need to be doing multiple things, you've saved up an inspiring presence, you just need to hold a line. All those sorts of things are really useful. And because he's a Draco, he can accompany Draco's cavalry, so if they need to run faster or they need to get a good charge off, he can give them the ability to do that. So he's a really versatile hero, and that also includes in the Warrior Chamber the Relictor, the Castellan, the Vexillor, the Heraldor, all of which have their own uses. I won't go too much into it, but they allow the line to be tankier, to deal more damage, or to just generally do more stuff. And then finally you have the Extremis elements. That is the Dracoth Cavalry, and if I had them, the Star Drakes. These are your big removal units. These are the units that I would use in either the Vanguard or the Warrior element as my finisher. So I would use these to deal devastating counter charges. If I got hit by something really big, throw in the concussors. I need to pin a unit down or stop it being so effective, throw the Tempestors at it. I need to sweep through a pile of stuff, launch a bit of a mega charge, and have my Lord Selznion Draco with his Thunder Axe go on an absolute tear. Those are the sorts of things the Extremis element is for. I don't have a Star Drake, for obvious reasons involving logistics, but if I did, it would again be used as a house cleaner. It would be used as a finisher, mass removal, and those sorts of things. So that's what the army kind of wants to do, but how well does it do it? Well, from my experience, I am missing heavy removal. I have decent infantry removal, so like light infantry is, I'm not going to say it's no challenge to me, but I can easily take quite big piles of infantry off the board in bits and bobs. So I chip damage here, mass clearance with the Raptors there, and then one good charge, I can send a unit packing. I can also deal with heroes relatively easily. Admittedly, that's going to get harder now in the new edition with Lookout Sir, but using the Paladors and the Hunters and the Longstrike Raptors and the Black Talon should I choose to run her, I can really put paid to really small heroes like Priests, Casters, Banner Bearers. Those sorts of units are not a challenge, or if they are a challenge, they're a challenge only if the opponent knows what they're doing with them, because otherwise I can pick them off, bang, gone, dead, easy. I can also, by the same token, deal with artillery, because if I can get a single unit close enough to engage that artillery, and particularly now that 2nd edition is adding you can't shoot out of combat, well, as soon as I engage that artillery crew, that artillery piece is boned. I mean, the only thing that's a bit of a problem is the skull cannon, because we think that will still be able to keep shooting at the unit it's in combat with. We don't know yet. But that's going to be really good for dealing with artillery. The problem, as I see it with the army, is heavy infantry, and lots of it. So armies like Chaos Warriors are annoying because I don't have enough heavy damage to remove them. Because Vanguard Hunters, no Ren damage 1 across the board, and not bucket loads of attacks. Enough, but not bucket loads. Paladors, same problem. Raptors, bucket loads of attacks, but hitting on 4s, and also no Ren damage 1. It's kind of meh. The Warrior element helps with that. The Judicators get a bit of rend, but I don't particularly like them all that much. Liberators are good stall, and the heroes generally do pack rend or high damage. But I don't think I've got enough to remove an entire board of heavy infantry like Iron Jaws, Ogres, or Chaos Warriors. Particularly if they're mounted, like Beastclaw Raiders and Mortal Khorne with Juggernauts, that can really close distance. And whilst I can teleport some units away to start encircling, I don't have the removal to deal with those heavy hitters. Even if they don't hit that hard, like Chaos Knights, unless they're buffed up anyway, I can't really remove them. An individual big target, I've got concussors, I've got retributors, my Lord of Kilo does decent damage. I can remove a big target, but I can't remove a lot of big targets or a lot of medium scale targets that have 3 wounds or 4 wounds, a decent armor save, are just tanky and not on their own. They're a bit of a challenge. So you might think, why didn't I add Fulminators instead of Tempestors if that's a problem? Yeah, but at the same time, if I shoot a unit that then stops that unit doing anything, I'm the one most likely to be able to disengage favourably because I'll have teleportation and they often won't. So that's the army in a nutshell. It does harassment well, it does infantry removal well, it does assassination well, and artillery removal at the same time, but it struggles with the big bulky stuff, and AOS is getting a bit more of that as time goes by, with things like Beast Claw and Maggotkin in particular. I think Maggotkin are going to be a real challenge for me. If they can engage me, which they don't need to do, they can just hold the board, I could run into some real trouble. But we'll see what the new edition brings as well for that. And then that's the army, so the future. As I say, I don't know what I'm going to be doing for future episodes, whether I should do it in lots of little parts or just do one mega episode at some point. But the basic plan of what I want to add to the army goes as follows. I want 1 Celestar Ballista, because I do really like the look of that thing. I don't know what its stats are yet, but I'm thinking it will be either good mass infantry removal to back up my Vanguard Raptors, or good heavy stuff removal to back up my Vanguard Raptors with long strike crossbows, or my Judicators, or my heavy infantry and cavalry, in just dealing with bigger stuff by having maybe a point of render damage 2, or having a lot of shots and 1 render damage 1, something like that. I want a Lord Arcanum because that model is majestic. Getting a fast-moving wizard will be very, very useful, and if I felt like doing a converted battle standard bearer, that would be a perfect model for it, but that's a thing for another day. But that's a model I really, really want because I think it just is utterly gorgeous, and it will also be probably the most powerful caster in the chamber. I'm thinking about the Sequitors, the Mace and Shield Infantry. They look interesting, but I think I will play it by ear with them, because I might need them as battle line, but they might be battle line if locked behind a general, so they're not so useful. And I don't know what their abilities are going to be, so wait and see on those. The not quite sure what their mount is cavalry look cool, and I'll probably get a unit of them because I really like cavalry. I have a real penchant for cavalry, so I'll probably get more Dracos at some point. So they'll be in the army, I'm sure of it, because again, fast-moving wizards, they can support the Lord Arcanum or just do their own thing. I'm assuming they're wizards anyway. And then you have the foot-mounted battle mages, so the staffs and the swords. I like those models a lot. I think I'll probably get a unit of those. The only unit that I'm absolutely not getting, unless it proves to be like god tier, is I think they're called Castigators, which are the ones with the noob tubes. Or I call them noob tubes. They shoot the big flasks of Draco's breath. Those to me just looks a bit derpy. They're not my thing, so I'm not going to be picking those up in any hurry. I might get a unit for completeness, but probably not. Other than that, is there anything? There's the Knight Incantors. Might do, probably will do, because they've got a really, really good spell. Especially if you're playing defensively, it's a really, really good spell. So I'll see how I feel about them going forward when I can look at the War Scrolls, the points, and the like. I also need to add a couple of elements that already exist. The primary one being a Knight Venator. You've noticed with this army I've not bought Prosecutors, Knight Venator, Knight Azeros, Ether Wings. Discussed it several times. They'll just break if I try and take them home again. So when I get home, I do think I want to get a Knight Venator, because that deals with individual targets quite well, and you can use a star-faced arrow to do massive amounts of damage to pick off a critical hero, which will be very, very useful. And it also gives me some maneuverability for activating command abilities, because you can just whiz around the board and be giving out, you run faster, you charge faster, you're immune to battle shock now. These will be useful in doing that sort of thing, which is always good. A Knight Azeros, I don't know. And other than that, well, there may be a Star Drake one day. I don't know. It really depends on whether the Stormcast army grabs me enough going into AOS 2 that I want to keep building it and building it and building it whilst doing some other stuff. And if I do that, then I'll probably get a Star Drake eventually. But I make no promises. And then once that's all done, that'll probably take up my summer as I get models ready and maybe do a bit of painting while I'm at home. Then when I go back to uni, we have a project to pick, and it's getting more and more complicated by the bloody minute. Because the Idnet Deepkins still look amazing. I don't know, I've got over the sort of initial hype phase for them now. They're still awesome and they're still cool, but I don't know if I could do them justice as a general or as a collector and a painter. Daughters of Cain, same problem. Got some already. can add to that with some easy units, but can I do them justice and make them look good and play well with them? I don't know. Then I've actually just recently come across the Fire Slayers because I found the paint scheme for the Lodge that canonically works with my Stormhost. The Bayard Lodge, Baeyrd. I'm calling it Bayard until I hear otherwise. And they work with the Sons of Mallus after the Sons of Mallus saved them from Chaos. And so it would just be kind of appropriate for me to have a small Fire Slayers allies force that I could just tack on to my Stormcast Amulet, some Volcat Berserkers, a Magma Droth, that sort of thing. It's just like, there are so many options and I don't know what to do. So let me know what you think I should be adding for the next project, as well as for the Stormcast, in the comments below. Always good to see what you have to say. And that's it. That really is the end of A Town Called Mallus. I'm hoping to get a game or two in with the Stormcast Eternals before too long, and if you don't see them before the end of June, then I won't have got them until I've gone back to England. But we shall see. So, thank you very much for watching the video. I do hope you have enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This has been Tactica Imperialis and the full army showcase and discussion for A Town Called Mallus. I'll see you all again. Bye for now.